Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to HGC Western Clash, where I think the crowd are getting free stuff right now. Are you alive? Anyone? Is anyone in here? Anyone want to see some Heroes of the Storm? Kind of. Okay, all right. Does anyone want to watch some quality Heroes of the Storm? They're all so busy at the back getting free stuff right now. We have a lower bracket final for the ages for you. Two fantastic teams. They've been victors in the past. They've been defeated in the past. They've had a fantastically rich history between the two teams as well. And yet again, it comes to a LAN tournament and they face off against each other again. However, this time, only one can make the grand final to face off against Fnatic. Our first team have had a perfect season as far as the regular season is concerned and have only dropped one set so far here at the Western Clash. They are Misfits. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Misfits! And their opponents, a team you have already seen today here, having crushed Team 8 with a 3-0 victory. A return to form, perhaps, after a disappointing day two. Can they make another grand final? We're about to find out as we introduce you to Team Dignitas. Please welcome to the stage, Team Dignitas.
Things are about to get spicy here, guys, because this is the #1 team from last year, Dignitas, versus the #1 seed from the Pro League season coming into this event in the lower bracket. Elimination for these teams, Europe versus Europe. Kaldor, I mean, we've seen Misfits look so strong all year long, but I don't know if they're as strong as a week ago today here.
To be absolutely honest with you, coming into this, I would have said, or I said, Fnatic versus Misfits in the finals. That can still happen. I think that Misfits is able to take Dignitas down. But that being said, I also was on the same opinion a couple of times in the last year when Dignitas showed up at events being like 0-20 in scrims, and they still bodied everyone and won the tournament. So it's really tough to call, but I personally think Misfits has a bit of an edge here.
We just saw a great series from Dignitas versus Team 8. And again, shout out to Team 8 for their showing, but Dignitas, they're on point. Their late game is deadly. What are you thinking, Jay Howe?
I think they're coming together. When they played against Misfits before, they had a player that was ill, probably not playing up to their potential. We see Snitch looks very calm and relaxed after that last convincing series. I think Dignitas is going to have a much better chance this time around, but I expect nothing but fireworks between these two teams. They've played each other so much. They've been in this position so many times. Like, it's almost a coin flip between these two teams.
Grubby, when we look at the match we just saw, that was a little bit more of the NA meta versus the EU meta, but this is going to be one of those confined metas between Dignitas and Fnatic, or Misfits here, because they have played each other so much in the past. What kind of crazy things do you think they might still have in their bag?
Well, you know, I think the important thing to remember is that Team 8 is looking into the window of the European scene. They have done their homework and they've studied teams like Dignitas, and they are seeing certain emerging trends. But what is special about the Misfits versus Dignitas direct matchup is that Team 8, they have a lot of draft weaknesses where they need to cover for certain heroes, certain players with small hero pools, Prismaticism and Ragnaros. This vastly changes the dynamic of the draft. Misfits doesn't have a weakness like that. Dignitas, I think, do. They have a very heavy dependency on Tyrael and Varian for JPL. I think they have a dependency for Mene on mage-style play. So I feel like Misfits can draw Dignitas a little bit more out of their comfort zone for the draft.
Well, here we go into the map selection for the series. It's going to be Warhead Junction banned out here. Pretty darn standard. Almost 90% of the series had that out of play. Brax's holdout will also be removed. So that does leave BOE here on that for the 2-lane map option. The first game will be Towers of Doom.
Towers of Doom, the priority on the global, I think Grubby said it best, was at the later end of that, Mene. And we actually saw during their previous series, Misfits, Anubarak was the answer to a lot of what Dignitas was doing, whether it's Medivh plus whatever you want to put there. Medivh does a lot of ability damage plus whatever Mene is playing. You also saw Ragnaros, so heroes like that can be easily countered. We saw Anubarak, Zarya's an option, so you got to start diversifying. If you are Mene, you've got to look for different options. Else, I think Misfits has a blueprint for a lot of what you can do against Dignitas.
I actually disagree a little bit with that point for a certain reason. Mene has a focus on certain heroes, which is definitely true. But first of all, I personally feel it's extremely difficult to choke him out of them because he has still 5 heroes where he's extremely good at. And if you look at his profile at any point, he's probably the one that practices out of the European scene by far the most. Like, it's insane. If he is not in a scrim, he's in a Hero League game. If he's in a Hero League game because like too tired for this or just waking up, he's in a quick match. And that's happening all day long. He's playing every hero, and he's not on the same level with all of them, obviously. But I think choking out Mene is very, very tricky, since he can always fall back on an auto attacker.
Not necessarily choking out, but drafting heroes that do well against him, like the Anubarak, I think is a big thing that Misfits really showed in their first series.
Well, let's take a look at some of those stats here of these players, starting with Dark Mach, definitely one of the playmakers here on the side of Misfits all weekend long. Now, with him here, you see the Greymane, the Anubarak, and the Dahaka as his 3 most played. And to me, that Anubarak is the most shocking for this event, as he's really risen up in his prominence.
Darkmog amazes me for one particular reason this season, and that's simply because his hero pool was never really tiny after the beginning of last year, after the start of 2016, but it exploded in the HGC season this year. It's absolutely astonishing how many heroes he's currently playing. I mean, he was known for his melees, his assassins, and all of a sudden he's branching out in range, has a couple of off-tanks that he plays. It's just absolutely incredible. That guy can play everything and on a high level at that.
Yeah, Mene, there we see a lot of priority on those mages, as Grubby talked about. Jaina, Gul'dan, Li Ming, we saw Kel'Thas in that last series. It's all mages all the time for Mene, who, when I was looking at the stats, when we were looking at the stats backstage, Jake, he actually has the highest KDA for this team. He's the most impactful player on this team when it comes to doing damage. That's his role, is to try and push people and dominate on that back line.
Grubby, when we look at this, the stats between these two players, I mean, you can definitely see the power of the KDA on the side of Mene, but overall, they are pretty darn even with their consistency and staying alive, making sure they're safe in their team fights. Mene's consistently getting out at the last moment, finding value elsewhere.
He's also part of 100% of the kills. That's one bloodlessly Frenchman. Yeah, but definitely the key players, at least in terms of doing damage for their respective teams. Of course, Dignitas will empower Mene to do his role effectively, but he's definitely a very safe player due to the millions of hours of practice. Mene is a very mechanically sound player, good positioning.
At that point, one of the games that fascinated me the most was when he was playing, I think it was Team 8 earlier, and I looked at the damage at some point, and he was playing his Jaina, one of his favorite heroes, and his damage output was basically non-existent. And the reason was because everybody is starting to jump in so heavily that he can't get the damage out consistently, but that opens up, of course, other areas where other heroes and players can completely shine and take over that position.
A Tracer ban here. Dignitas is known to run a bit of Tracer, not just with Tassadar, but also with without her. And without him. And Tracer Abathur is also a strong, powerful combo on Towers of Doom.
Yeah, Zelia, I think, is the biggest threat. Jaina Zeratul right away for Dignitas, looking for that big wombo. Guys, that's actually the first 2 picks that they had in the first series when they went up against Misfits on Towers of Doom just a couple of days ago.
Yeah, commonly when you look at the situation, you say, okay, Dahak is up, Falsehead's up. What kind of global might we see? But those combos like the Zeratul Jaina, a classic for Team Dignitas.
That is exactly their first 2 picks from last year.
And do you remember how Misfits countered that? They went for very heavy frontline. You get all these heroes. They are called warriors. They are a
Triple
category. They're a category of heroes that have very high health pools and that can resist Ring of Frost Void Prism combinations.
They backed it up with a Nazebo in the end. It was a triple warrior with a Nazebo on the back line. Superstition at 13 mitigates so much ability damage. I wouldn't be surprised. Do you ban out? Is this a Nazebo ban? I know it sounds crazy, but
You make a good point, though.
I mean, I'm personally always scared when I see the Dehaka. Fnatic was the only team so far during the entire season and the event that was able to beat the Dehaka of Misfits. And that is really a scary stat right there. So Dignitas are already well aware that they are in a little bit of trouble when it comes to that. They have to find a way to deal with this. But of course, looking at the bans right now, they can still go for taking away some of that range damage.
Do you ban a Nubarak?
I mean, Misfits ran that earlier, so I actually think it's definitely an option for them. And Nubarak was picked up by them. And they started with more or less, this wasn't quite the same, but they banned a Nubarak. There was the triple melee comp that we saw in the first time they clashed together on towers. And then it was the late Nazebo. And Nubarak gave them a lot of trouble. They were chasing Jaina the entire time. This was actually one of the reasons why Jaina couldn't really get the damage out. So I feel the ban here is definitely a target ban, but it is justified.
It's a good idea. Falstad ban could be shooting themselves in the foot a little bit because I'm expecting an Abathur coming out here for Dignitas.
well, you almost feel comfortable with them giving an Abathur. It applies to more ability damage, things like that you can try and deal with. We saw them play Abathur the first go-round, but what it does, it takes Snitch away from the Falstad. It takes you away from a global hero to match up with Dehaka. You might be able to get advantages in that other way. I felt like they dealt with Abathur pretty well. We saw a kind of a back and forth early game.
I think Dig is going to go Abathur.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like banning Falstad as opposed to Abathur. They still go. Now, we saw it play out in the game one where Misfits had a strong early game. The minute 10 came around for Dignitas. They turned it around, but then 20 hit. Misfits was able to seal the deal, but it was a much closer game once we hit that mid-game stride.
So a bit of a Groundhog's Day here as they're following pretty much the same patterns here. Dignitas and Misfits. This time, Misfits will not have the benefits of a Nubarak. They can still go Nazebo. And then if they want to follow that pattern, what is going to be their third warrior? Could be Varian.
Also, keep one thing in mind. One of the things that Misfits struggled with heavily when they played against them the last time was the Muradin and Abathur combo. That doesn't exist anymore. That was a huge problem. In every fight, they tried to take down Muradin, and they never succeeded. He was always kept alive. This time, that's not a problem. And they actually switched it up a little bit. They picked the Varian the last time. This time it's the Muradin instead, taking him away from the possible combo on the side of Dignitas. So I like that draft actually a lot. And there it is, Nazebo, once again.
But the Medivh looking to lock that in for all that mobility, the options, and those massive shields. That'll be useful here, especially against that Wombo, maybe to save a single hero.
Well, we saw excellent play by Bakery on Karazim, who told us that he hasn't really played a lot, practiced a lot, but he plays it probably better than anybody. We've seen a lot of great plays from Splendor, but Bakery been up there. Will he go that right, or will we see the Rhaegar again?
I think Karazim's great here. Tyrael has decent auto attack damage. Zeratul and Karazim have great auto attack damage, and they are a primary way of dealing with Nazebo, who goes for Superstition. It's going to be Brightwing, though. How do we like that?
I think what you look at there is you take somebody like Zeratul, you use it to roam. At the last moment, you can put the Abathur hat on, you bring in Brightwing with that phase shift, you start to look for picks early, you can try and be aggressive, abuse those globals throughout. We'll see if that's a strategy they try and go with.
I'm a little bit scared for Dignitas. Misfits has a draft that, I mean, the longer the game goes, of course, the stronger the draft is going to become for them due to several heroes that they have in their arsenal, Nazebo being one of them, the obvious choice. I just think it's going to be incredibly difficult for Dignitas to deal with what Misfits has here. And Dignitas is basically all their eggs in, I want to say, two baskets. First of all, the snipe comp that you've been talking about, roaming the map, trying to find a solo lane where they can get a kill. I don't think Misfits is going to allow that. They are too smart for that.
Play safe.
They shouldn't. They should play safe. And the second is the Wombo combo. And that is going to get weaker as the game progresses, since all of those heroes are picking up survival talents.
You know, if Medivh picks up Circle of Protection at level 16 instead of Reabsorption, Void Prison comes out, boom, Force of Will, everything's gone. How do you stop that? Maybe a Polymorph of Medivh right as Void Prison comes up, but it's going to be a super cool draft here.
It's time to hop into game number 1 of the lower bracket finals. What do you guys think on the side of Trixler and Gillyweed?
We are excited for this matchup. We've been wanting to see it forever. Dignitas versus Misfits. Remember, Dignitas looking for their first win in the series in the last 7 weeks. So let's see if they can pull it off here. To the very far left, Gilly, please introduce our players.
We have the members of Misfits, with Hasuabs playing Medivh, Blumby playing Muradin, Darkmok on Dahaka, Splendor playing Malfurion, and Nurok will be playing Nazebo.
And to the right, Team Dignitas will be showing off their players as well. Snitch will be on Abathur, JPL with the Tyrael gameplay, seeing that all weekend. Bakery on Brightwing, refreshing to see that. Zelia on Zeratul, and Mane on his favorite mage, besides Kel'Thas, Jaina.
And Gul'dan. All of the mages, all of the time. No, it is great to see Brightwing back in the hands of Bakery. One that we've seen him play it before, but it is far more rare now in HGC so far.
So our teams immediately start the interactions and the aggression. 4-man rotation for Dignitas. And this is actually a strategy we're starting to see a little bit more often with Abathur, where you're getting these 4-man rotations earlier between the 1 and 10 because you get the situation where Abathur can soak both lanes. You may lose some experience here and there, but the potential for you to actually get kills and get better rotations as 4 goes up much higher. So here we go, aggression already. JP on the left side, Bakery and Zelia floating around. These Medivh portals, though, make it very safe for them.
As always, we look at Team Dignitas getting their Jaina, Zeratul, Wombo combo. And it'll be up to Misfits and the members to be able to stop whenever the Void Prison goes down Jaina from being able to follow up with Ring of Frost. Whose job is it, do you think, this time, Tim, to be able to do that? Is it going to be Medivh with Leyline Seal?
Yeah, Medivh with Leyline Seal, maybe even a Polybomb to get it out faster just to be that much harassment. Nonetheless, though, JPL on the bottom left taking damage. There is a portal right off the wall for Nurok. But yes, Misfits they really value Nazebo for breaking down mages. And what a better team to play it against than one that runs mages all the time. Jaina here, Zeratul, Tyrael even to a degree when you get to the late game does have a hard time with those spiders connecting with the opponent. So watch out for that. All altars activating, one at the top left, one at the top right, and one at the bottom. How will our teams manage this altar phase?
Well, it seems that both are okay with picking up their own altars. Zelia is going to be up in the top right, over in the top left are Medivh and Dahaka. Medivh just making sure there wasn't going to be any shenanigans happening to Dahaka. Dahaka can burrow charge in or brush talk in. JPL's caught in the zombie wall, takes a lot of damage, about halfway down. Is going to have to patiently wait for the passive healing of Bakery to heal him back up before re-engaging.
All 5 members down here for Misfits. 4 for Dignitas. Abathur still soaking in the top and the middle lane. Delaying this as long as possible does work out in the favor of Dig because they can continue to soak. But Dahaka, the moment this altar is capitalized on, can rotate into a different lane. So keep an eye out for him to get his moving on. Zelia with the poke. Splendor, though, actually does get the altar. Blumby taking that singularity spike from Zeratul.
Team Dignitas knew that it was going to be very unlikely with it having an Abathur weaker in the early game, being able to get 2 out of the 3 altars here. So they were just trying to delay as long as possible. They knew that this was going to be the eventual outcome. So they did get some soaking with Abathur, but Misfits doing such a great job of zoning all of the different ways of damage coming in. You know, the Frostbolt, like you said, Singularity Spike too. So not allowing Team Dignitas to go for very long of that delay tactics has allowed Misfits to keep right on up with experience.
Yep, solid job on Misfits. Getting back in the lanes as well. We do have some pushes down on the bottom right with the Sappers. The Pumpkin's looking to do damage, but Misfits should be able to clear that up. Darkmok on the top will handle the pressure that happened earlier from Abathur. Zelia and Bakery looked for an aggressive play. Sadly, it did not occur. They did not break it out, but in terms of experience, this is okay. When you have an Abathur on your team and you're getting to 10, you're going to see a slightly never really building up unless you get those delay tactics, but Misfits are ahead here, and rightfully so, because of their great movement around the battleground.
You know, Tim, I just want to take a moment to appreciate, well, first of all, JPL trying to sick dodge away from the ring of zombies and everything else. Threw out Eldarin's Might. Going to take the teleport, goes in.
Does he live? No way. Okay, the spiders came in for the kill at the last second there, but nice move. Almost put himself in a scenario where he got to play out. And the entire time, Abathur was getting middle lane pushed out, getting experience too. So even though he died, having the good extra 8 to 10 seconds of Tyrael not falling saved the turrets down there in the bottom right, and also allowed Abathur to set up well.
So what I was wanting to reference is how cool it is that we have such a similar style drafting to the T for Team Dignitas, and just slight variations on knowing, okay, this is how it went before, this is still our strategy, what do we change in the second ban in order to stop Misfits from being able to defend versus this, understanding how it went before. I think it's so cool to see us go back to that, revisit it, and see if the adjustments are enough to make changes.
One of the biggest adjustments they could use is when they get into the late game, be careful with their ultras and be willing to give up things, especially when they have the lead. They had the lead the last time, and Zelia went for a harass that got him picked off, which lost the ultra but lost map control. So control in the late game is something Dignitas is famous and great for. They just need to make sure to echo that here in this game compared to what they did not do the last time they played. Now, ultra has been activated once again. Shots here for Misfits as they will finish it off. Dignitas look for some harass, but they're just not being quick enough.
Again, Misfits have such a great setup and positioning around these altars, so it's going to give them even more of a lead in core health. But the experience is staying very, very close. And as Team Dignitas go ahead and get closer to the late game in experience, that's where we see a lot of the change come in, especially once Dignitas get their Wombo combo, get their those amazing and important heroic abilities for them. Void Prison, Ring of Frost, and Sanctification.
A lot of struggle here in the bottom with these mercenary camps just because no team wants to lose that bell tower. And now they're in Dahaka to control the top and the middle lane. It's kind of interesting how everything is weighted for our 4 heroes in these 4-on-4 scenarios down here in the bottom lane. And respectfully so, a bell tower falls and suddenly you're being pinched out. So constantly these mercenary camps come up. Once a team even indicates they're grabbing their mercenary camp, the other one will echo the same thought because they can't afford an invade.
Yeah, I've always admired how Europe runs those bottom sapper camps, is they go for theirs, and then if it takes too long to see your opponents pick them up, that's when you're able to go in for the invade. So rather than just go straight in blindly for an invade, playing it patiently, but always watchful to see if there is that opportunity to do so.
Well, Dignitas has the burden of making sure to echo that too, because Murden and Dahaka are the prime invaders for the team. Misfits definitely has a control over it. So the moment you get any win that your opponent has started grabbing mercenaries, Dignitas has to start, because they have defensive capabilities, but no real hard engage until that Void Prison becomes available and they have that Abathur ultimate evolution. 9.5 to 9.5 for our two teams. The third phase of the altars does spawn, and the next 20 seconds, one in the middle, one in the bottom. Squeezing out level 10 is the main priority for both our teams.
Couple of good talents once again that we've seen before. Needle Spine is one to give increased range for stab, a good way to delay, as well as Winter's Reach. We saw that from Mene last time, and he was able to get a lot of delays you wouldn't have thought possible thanks to that Frostbolt. Heroic ability is online, everything looking very standard for Misfits. It will be Leyline Seal instead of Polybomb. We'll see what Dignitas wants to choose.
Zeratul started the channel on the bottom right, so we had Darkmont come in as well as he came from the top lane. They will be able to delay that, but yes, Malfurion gets the altar in the middle. Dignitas needs to make a play here. Tyrael's being locked down. JPL going for an aggressive Druid here. He's going to have Sanctification available, but that Gargantuan chunking any member near it.
Zelia has been caught. There was an invade. Void Prison on 2. Watch Mene starts to move in. Ring of Frost goes down. Hits 2. Sanctification on the backline to follow, but it is Polymorph onto Blumby, who had Avatar still nice and healthy and continuing the fight.
Big call out to Splendor there. He got the cleanse off. He also got the Twilight Dream and prevented Jaina, Snitch in particular, the fake Jaina, from coming in and finishing off a combo on an important member. So the big initial upfront burst available for Dignitas has been nullified. So Misfits, as long as they play this nice and slow, they're good to go. In fact, they grabbed another altar, 36-20, holding a massive lead over Dignitas. Very different compared to what we saw last time.
Yeah, Team Dignitas still okay in losing out on some of those shots, but the important thing is, again, that they continue to get their sappers whenever possible. Zelia's trying to zone Blumby away from being able to invade, and he will do so. Blumby has to back off. Misfits looking at their own sappers now. Dignitas may try to invade this even, Tim.
They could move forward. I am worried, Sanctification not being up, it would be hard for Tyrael to do so, but Dignitas not thinking so. Brywing goes in with the phase shift, the peekaboo revealing everyone within the area. Blumby taking some damage as well from Zelia coming in for that final swipe. Mania on the right side playing nice and safe, making it hard for anyone to come through this concaves, and Dignitas with the invade does take away the mercenary camps.
Dignitas haven't been able to claim the altars, but they will steal away sappers and start to get better presence here in the bottom lane. They would love to be able to take down some bell towers, because as we've seen from the Abathur game so far, once you can get those structural advantages, he has a place to push while you can rotate in and put pressure on some other lane. And that is the scary part of Towers of Doom, is once you start losing the bell tower game, you not only are constantly playing a just reaction to your opponents, but also potentially losing out on far more shots.
Being focused, Essence has been popped for him. He will burrow for the last second, and Bakery will be forced to retreat. Nice heads-up play there by Darkmark, but also the heads-up play from Dignitas, realizing, okay, we're not going to get this takedown. There's a big rotation happening, and they retreat just in time. No major problem there for our Dragon and Azalea as well. Now, multiple members did come to the top lane. Jaina has spent the time to spin down the pressure in the bottom lane. They cleared out the entire way, so they get the pressure down there. But the counter aggression from Misfits is to grab the turrets in the top right and move towards 13.
Yeah, they needed the experience. They were starting to get behind, especially with the rotation up, weren't covering all of the lanes, wanted to get to 13 so that they can contest this altar. It's a single altar phase. 4 shots available for either team should they be able to pick it up. 13 almost here for either side. Misfits picks it up slightly faster, but Dig will get it too.
So we have aggression down the bottom left on the Blumby, and I kind of wonder if that was the correct play for Dignitas. I would like for them to control the chokes in the top and the top right, because we had a big rotation from Misfits coming down. So if they controlled that area with their Blizzards or Void Prisons and such, they actually could have had a good team fight. But moving down to Blumby allowed for Misfits to walk in and start to actually get aggressive. Gargantuan is now out. Snitch has popped the ultimate evolution.
Double Jaina here, and that signifies Misfits to back off slightly. They don't want to give up this altar, though, either, so they're trying to be cautiously aggressive, and they have the Gargantuan sitting on the point, too. They'll be running out soon. They still have a portal. It's allowed people to go back in. JPL has to use Sanctification.
He does. He's going to live for now, but the Nazebo wall to hold him in is quite scary. Zelia on the left does drop a Void Prison. Here's a Leyline Seal. Sadly, the Void Prison is not dropped, and the Ring of Frost does not connect. Zelia being focused down by Blumby. On the top side, Darkmok is chasing Bakery. He's hoping to blink out. He does get away, but the fight is heavily won by Misfits, and they take one more altar.
Misfits does exactly what they need to. Stop the Wombo in whatever way possible. If you can't stop Jaina, you stop Azalea from being able to drop the Void Prison. So great job there from them. They will be rewarded with yet another altar, as well as the Sappers in bottom on their opponent's side of the battleground.
Well, it's not looking too good for Dignitas, but that looks good for them as they get a pick off on Medivh. Should rotate down and start to grab these mercenary camps. Get again, a bell tower opened up. We've been talking about it over and over again. Open up the map, and this is their chance to do so with Medivh being out for the next 17 seconds.
Medivh players, you'll be wanting to know whether or not Master's Touch was finished, and I am sad to inform you that it was not. Back to square one is Hasops with those stacks.
Sad day for Medivh mains out there. You know that field's basically a non-talent at level 7 if you don't finish it off. So unfortunate there for our Medivh player. Now aggression has finally happened in the bottom. Good defense from Misfits. Darkmok headed to the top and grabbed his own mercenary camp. Now Zelia and Bakery go once again for the third Gankaroni on Darkmok. Can they get it? Oh, Burrow last second, but Medivh showing up. Medivh barely not there for the force of will.
Calculated, very calculated. Zelia and Bakery have been constantly trying to go for that kill, even with the Burrow there, knowing that there was a little bit of extra shielding and support with an Abathur Symbiote as well to let Zelia tank those tower shots long enough to finally get the kill. So Team Dignitas are starting to find their stride in this game. They're ahead in experience. They're working their way toward level 16. They're also working on a boss. And without anybody here from Misfits to be able to stop this, only Hasops checking in, that'll be 4 shots going the way. Finally, the first 4 shots that Dignitas have gotten since the first altar phase.
And solid spread out there too by Dignitas. I want to commend them and make sure that lane line seal was not possible to be effective there. They left Tyrael, but they put Bakery in the top right corner. They also put the Jaina on the bottom left, just spreading out constantly so lane line seal cannot be effective. Now, the altars are spawning, 3 of them here, and the 5th phase of the altars. Nerox on the bottom grabbing already that altar. Bakery's grabbed the type right one, and we're going to have Dignitas play aggressive on the top left. Finally, we have that holy ground where JPL just loves to get aggressive with his Tyrael.
Nice adaptation from Team Dignitas. The minute they finished that boss, there was the triple altar phase that comes in at the 5th phase. And realizing that Misfits were just in a way better position already at that bottom altar, they made the quick swing around, went over, stopped Misfits from picking up their own altar, and jumped in before Misfits could even react. So that enabled Team Dignitas to get both. And they needed to, because they are still behind in core health.
And this is a much better scenario for them. It feels much better to be 24-12 than be 30-12, right? Or any lower numbers. It feels like it's actually obtainable to get back in this game, especially with being Towers of Doom. So the level 16 power spike should be a solid state for Dignitas. Abathur is coming online as well. Just constant W everywhere. He's going for this W build, really bringing in that damage. So here we go. Gargantua pop on the right side. Mercenaries pushing in. Gargantua is focused down. Nice job. JPL's been locked down. Sanctification's available. The Twilight Dream did come out, but JPL dodged it.
He did, but Misfits have so many tools to stop Sappers from running in. It is insane. Zombie Wall is such a great one to do so. and only one ran in. So even getting both of the camps, you know, your normal scenario is you want to go in, put some damage down, and then save some of those sappers so that you can try to escort to get shots in. They didn't even get the bell tower with those two camps.
Yeah, it's been a few times now Dignitas had pressure down there, but Misfits just defends it so well with the Nazebo wall and the Nazebo damage. So overall, solid job by Misfits, and they also hit 16 here. Waiting for that 16 talent for Muradin. What is he wanting to pick up to bring out this aggression? Looks like he wants to hold it for a surprise. Out there in the middle continues the pressure, but now Dignitas is forced to rotate to the top. They go for a pick on potentially Blumby. They will block him in for a slight amount of time, but he still had to escape with the portal.
Superstition was the pickup at level 13 for Nazebo, so he does get the spell armor, but is more vulnerable to auto attacks. So although the Wombo may not be as effective versus him, it may be a possibility that Zeratul diving in, especially with Sentence Death, maybe could make the difference along with JPL. We'll have to see if that works out as has before. Sanctification used, Poly phase shift in as well. If Brightwing is here, we're going for the fight. There's the Void Prison, Tim.
All right, Mayday, can he hit the Ring of Frost? No, the Void Prison is stopped because the ley line of Seal from Hasuab was perfect. Blumby on the left side chasing down the fake Jaina, but still Dignitas has to retreat, and you have to give this one up. Your entire strategy was missed out on because of Hasuab's and his interruption. A few more shots going over to the side of Misfits here, and they will take a massive lead of 20-8.
That ley line Seal. That's what we were hypothesizing, how he was going to be able to do that. But, man, everyone from Team Dignitas was lined up. It was just like, well, okay, we'll catch all of them perfectly connecting, and things get rougher for Team Dignitas. But an experience advantage. Moving in, looking for an invade. They know that the ley line seal is down. It might be a time for them to be able to swing things back around.
Yeah, Bakery on the left side, so is Mania as well. JPL is trying to make sure that his squishy allies are safe here. Eldruin's Might does allow him to jump to the right side. Zelia will help him get away, but the heavy impact coming in from Blumby. We have Zelia being locked down. He will finally be able to get away from the fight, but man, that was incredibly close for him.
Yeah, Team Dignitas got way split up from that fight. But everyone, lots of escapes. And the chase went on to Tyrael, who is one of those good escape heroes. So no kills for Misfits, no comeback experience for them. And all the while, as long as Team Dignitas keeps Misfits in these sort of fights, these small skirmishes, engagements, they keep them from being able to soak and keep letting Abathur try to get them 20.
Abler constantly in that middle lane and slowly will do some damage on that fort in the middle, but still, no bell tower has been popped up. Oh, wait a minute. We had an aggressive play from Hasuabs in that middle lane to take out Dignitas' Abathur, and now suddenly they can turn around and put an aggressive rotation in the bottom lane, using the sappers to maybe get a bell tower.
Sapper Camp, Gargantuan move in. Misfits are full force onto the spell tower, and in the perfect time because 2 altars will be activating in 20 seconds.
Ouch. That is painful if you're a Dignitas fan. Abathur will be here in 25 seconds, so you can have Ultimate Evolution, and there is always the miracle possibility of Wombo combo Void Prison into Ring of Frost, but Misfits will be spread out. There's 2 altars for them to grab. In fact, they can prioritize 1 altar here. Grabbing that and giving away another is totally fine for them because they're getting closer to that goal of course, winning the game by killing off the core. So Dignitas is going to set up on the top. Zelia goes in for a slight harass to slow it down. Darkmonk turns around, though, gets the drag, attempting to solo the Zeratul. On the top left, though, Wombo combo comes out once again here. Ring of Frost is still available, but the Void Prison had to be used.
It had to be used in the bottom, and this is such a difficult spot. There's 2 as Bakery comes in, 2v2 here in the bottom. Mass Chaos in the 3v3 at the mid. Brightwing gets taken out, and that will allow Misfits to get the bottom altar. It can. They can move on in. There's no Brightwing. There is no support except for the shielding of Carapace from Symbiote. There's no Void Prison, Trixler.
Right side, Darkmonk picks off Jaina. JPL at the same time on the left side, trying to live here, and Misfits looks to take the game as already Nurok is channeling on the altar phase. There's no one here to stop him, and Misfits will take game number 1 against Team Dignitas.
That early game advantage from Misfits paid off for them a lot, being able to get up in core health. And when it came down to the wire, those 2 altars left, Team Dignitas felt like they had to contest both of them and got split up, and Misfits were able to capitalize on that.
That they were. Dignitas again, just feeling like they never got a spot where they're able to push in multiple times. They tried to head the bottom tower on the bottom left, never got the aggression to happen out, and Nazebo just too good at clearing. The Gargantuan on the way is just a speed bump to slow down those Mercs was just a little too much. Also, the Wombo combos, they never got off. There was one that did happen in the very early stages of phase, but the second and third time it happened, the Void Prison didn't get dropped because there was so much pressure on Zelia. It's not because Zelia is a bad player, it's because Misfits were so good at controlling.
Right, and you have to remember that Misfits have been playing versus this composition of Team Dignitas for so long.
Yeah.
Dignitas pioneered this wombo combo style of the Void Prison with Jaina and really brought it into fruition. So we'll see what else Dignitas wants to bring, but for now, we're headed back to the expert desk.
Thanks, Trick and Gilly. And yeah, we saw a really strong game there on the side of Misfits. Kaldor, one of the things you were saying in the draft is that wombo combo they were looking for gonna fall off in the late game, but they didn't get any done whatsoever because Leyline Seal just kept shutting it down.
It was just way too strong. Like, the way that Misfits played it was absolutely perfect. We saw very, very few kills in the game. And yeah, Misfits was incredibly strong here, as predicted. When we saw the draft, Grubby and I were talking a little bit about how we see a couple of options of how Dignitas can play it, but that it's very unlikely that they're going to completely win the game unless they roll early on, and that didn't happen. So it was a rough game for them.
You know, considering that they did play in the winter semifinals, Jay, how you're talking about this, they did a near identical draft. Game number 1 was Towers of Doom in both series. What do they have to do from here on out?
They've got to come up with something different. Before it ever started, I said that Misfits had a plan for Dignitas when it comes to drafting against them. They executed the exact same thing, basically, with the exception of one hero that was banned out against them. Tried to execute almost the exact same thing. It worked out the exact same way as we saw it a couple of days ago. And it's going to be a theme, a repeating theme. They have to change something going forward. I don't know what that is, but they definitely need to change it up a little bit.
I mean, considering the second map of the series that we saw yesterday was Infernal Shrines, Grubby, are you fearful that they'll just let that happen again and be in the exact same situation? Do you think they need to prioritize the map ban here?
I mean, to be honest, Dignitas has showed themselves from the weakest position here, I think. Just the speed with which they drafted, the lack of consideration to alternatives. We have Exhibit A in Zeratul Jaina combo counter by Misfits, and now Exhibit B. I feel like it's enough evidence that Misfits is comfortable to counter exactly what Dignitas is going to be doing as long as they repeat these very familiar patterns. I think Dignitas have more if they're a little bit more daring. So whatever they do on the next map, I think they need to just accept some daring.
Just break the pattern, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Would you agree with that, Kaldor? Do you think they're capable of doing it?
Sorry?
Do you think they're capable of breaking the pattern here?
I think Dignitas definitely has a couple of drafts that they haven't shown in a couple of playstyles. I agree with what Grubby said before the series started when he was mentioning that Dignitas is a little bit more set in the way that they're drafting, but they still have a few ways where they can deviate. Personally, I think this last draft, for me personally, I really feel that Abathar and Muradin that we saw in that first series made a huge difference compared to what we saw right now. I'm not 100% certain if I would have really gone for the Abathar play here again. They obviously feel comfortable with him. I don't mind the Zeratul Jaina to start with. I just feel that the follow-up could be different and would open a few more ways for them. But going into the next game, they definitely have to rethink their approach a little bit. That's true.
Awesome. Well, we want to hear your thoughts on the Twitterverse, guys. Use the hashtag HGC and let us know what you're thinking about here from game number 1. We'll be back with game number 2 in just a few moments. Stay tuned.
Hold on to hope. It will not abandon you. The eternal conflict continues between the forces